You've already done something today that was invented by an ad man in 1907. You did it this morning without thinking. You'll probably do it again tonight. And the wildest part, the reason you do it, the reason it feels right, has almost nothing to do with science and almost everything to do with one of the most successful marketing campaigns in human history. Let me tell you about the lie that made you brush your teeth twice a day. Picture America at the turn of the 20th century. Only about 7% of households even owned toothpaste. That means if you walked into a room of 100 Americans, 93 of them had never squeezed a tube of Colgate in their lives. You ate, your teeth hurt eventually, you went to a guy who pulled them out. That was the system. Enter Claude Hopkins. Already a legend in advertising, he'd turned Palmolive, Quaker Oats, Goodyear, and Schlitz beer into household names, making $185,000 a year in 1907, about $6.5 million today. The man knew how to sell things. A friend named Douglas Smith comes to him with Pepsodent toothpaste. Hopkins initially says no. Hardly anyone brushed their teeth. Why market a product nobody wanted for a habit nobody had? But Smith offered him a stock option. Hopkins agreed, then sat down and read dental textbooks until he found a single reference to mucin plaques on teeth, a naturally occurring film that coats everyone's teeth. Totally normal, harmless. Your tongue can feel it right now. Hopkins saw a gold mine. The ads were simple. Run your tongue across your teeth. Feel that film? That's the enemy. It's clouding your smile. But Pepsodent can remove it. He created a perfect loop. The cue was the film, the routine was brushing with Pepsodent, the reward was a beautiful, clean smile. He mailed out free tubes by the millions, never mentioned the price, sold it at twice the price of every competitor. Within 5 years, Pepsodent was one of the best-known products on Earth. Within a decade, toothbrushing went from 7% of Americans to 65%. Hopkins later said he couldn't recall another product where marketing had led to such global success in such a short time. He was right. It was unprecedented. But he was wrong about why it worked. Other toothpaste companies had tried similar advertising before Pepsodent. Same kinds of ads, same promises. They all failed. So what was different? It wasn't the advertising, it was the formula. Pepsodent's recipe accidentally included mint oil and citric acid, just part of the chemical mix. But those ingredients created a cool, tingling sensation in your mouth after you brushed. That tingle does absolutely nothing for your teeth. Zero cleaning benefit. It's purely sensory. But your brain feels it and thinks, clean. And more importantly, your brain starts to crave it. Charles Duhigg calls this the craving brain, the hidden third component of any habit loop. It's not enough to have a cue and a reward. You need a craving that bridges the two. Pepsodent accidentally manufactured the perfect craving. People who forgot to brush reported they missed the tingling. They weren't missing clean teeth. They were missing a sensation that had nothing to do with cleaning. When other companies figured this out and added mint, Pepsodent's market share dropped. People weren't loyal to the brand. They were loyal to the tingle. Every toothpaste you've ever used has this. That cool, fresh feeling tonight? A neurological trick descended from an accidental formula from 1919. And that foam, sodium lauryl sulfate. No cleaning benefit, just there to make your brain feel like something is happening. Pepsodent even invented a fake ingredient called irium and plastered it across their ads for years. In 1994, an FCC chairman revealed irium was just sodium lauryl sulfate. They made up a name for soap, but advertising created the desire, and the tingle made it stick. What sealed it as an American institution? War. During World War I, so many recruits had rotten teeth that more men were rejected for dental problems than for flat feet. The military required soldiers to have at least 12 teeth, including 6 molars, just to serve. A minimum tooth count for combat readiness. By World War II, the military had had enough. War Department Field Manual 2110 ordered every soldier to brush twice daily. Every field hygiene kit included a toothbrush. Between 1942 and 1945, Army dentists performed over 69 million restorations and 16 million extractions. They issued over 500,000 full sets of dentures. 20 dental officers were killed by enemy action. Millions of soldiers came home with a habit drilled into them by military discipline. They taught it to their kids, By the early 1950s, daily toothbrushing was mainstream. The habit was locked in. But here's the bombshell. For the entire time this was happening, from Hopkins's first ad in 1919 through the war and into the early 1950s, the toothpaste Americans were using didn't actually prevent cavities. Fluoride wasn't added to mainstream toothpaste until Crest launched in 1955. It didn't receive ADA approval until 1960. Americans brushed religiously, twice a day, for roughly 40 to 50 years, with paste that had no proven cavity prevention benefit. In the early 1940s, after 2 decades of mass toothbrushing, Americans were still developing an estimated 700 million cavities per year. All that brushing, all that tingle, all that foam, and cavities everywhere. Philippe Houjoel at the University of Washington published a landmark review in 2018 that made the dental world uncomfortable. He searched for high-quality studies on whether brushing without fluoride prevents cavities. Everything published since 1950, he found just 3 studies that met quality standards, 3, involving 743 children. The result? Without fluoride, brushing and flossing showed no significant cavity reduction. None. Houjoel wrote, almost as far back as a century ago, scientists regarded oral hygiene products as useless in preventing dental cavities. The bacteria causing cavities had been documented to dwell in fissures and cracks on teeth, where they were inaccessible to oral hygiene products. The bacteria that cause cavities, primarily Streptococcus mutans, live in tiny cracks where no toothbrush bristle can reach. You can scrub all day. You're not getting to them. Richard Niederman, a dentist and professor at NYU, reviewed Houjoel's study and said something that should be printed on every tube of toothpaste. What it says to me is that the toothbrush is just a delivery system. Just a delivery system for fluoride. That's it. When Crest launched with fluoride, the trials were massive. Over 9,000 mouths, 60,000 x-rays. Kids ages 6 to 16 showed a 49% reduction in cavities. The American Chemical Society later recognized it as one of the 100 greatest discoveries of the previous century. In 2004, they designated it a National Historic Chemical Landmark. Fluoride was the breakthrough, not the brush, not the tingle, not the foam. And that sacred twice-a-day rule? The CDC describes twice-daily brushing as a reasonable social norm, not a strict scientific requirement, a social norm. The literature shows 1 meticulous brushing per day is sufficient. They recommend twice because most of us do a lousy job. The ADA's own documentation admits the studies supporting twice-daily brushing evaluated frequency with fluoride toothpaste, not brushing alone. What actually prevents cavities? According to Houjoel, fluoride, a diet low in sugar and starch, and vitamin D. Vitamin D, here's a twist within the twist. A systematic review found vitamin D supplementation reduces cavity risk by 47%. In the early 20th century, vitamin D was endorsed by the AAD, the AMA, the UK Ministry of Health, and the National Academy of Sciences as effective against dental caries. Then, in 1945, the AAD quietly reversed course. Houjoel calls it one of the most puzzling reversals in beliefs on disease etiology. Vitamin D has virtually disappeared from the dental health conversation since. But fluoride, low sugar, and vitamin D don't sell $50 billion worth of oral care products a year. A tingling sensation does. A foamy mouth does. A ritual you perform twice a day without questioning does. So tonight, when you stand at your sink and feel that cool rush of mint, know what you're experiencing. The echo of an accidental formula from 1919, amplified by the most successful ad campaign in history, cemented by military orders, and only retroactively justified by a chemical that wasn't added until your grandparents were already adults. The toothbrush is a delivery system. Everything else is marketing. If you enjoyed unraveling this dental deception, give us a thumbs up, subscribe for more eye-opening content, and thanks for watching.